Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Not quite set up. I just had to take care of a little creature situation in my office. So, today, what we are going to chat about is we are going to chat about decision making. During my broadcast or after my broadcast last week, I had a conversation with someone who had made some comments and just made some interesting conversation. And she was curious, if that's something I would be willing to talk about at some point in the future. And here I am right away, following week, talking about it. And it is about decision making. And in this person's organization, the leaders make all the decisions. And that does not tend to be a long-term successful approach, in my opinion. And from the research I've been doing, it's just not a great approach. And we're going to talk this morning just for a few minutes. I'm usually live here for less than 20 minutes, sometimes just a little more than 20 minutes, but usually less than 20 minutes. And really, what I want to talk about is why it is sometimes easier for the leaders to make all the decisions and why it's harder, and what are the reasons that a leader might want to be making those decisions. Now, let's be clear, there are situations where a leader, I forgot to put this on do not disturb. There are times when solo decisions are critical and needed. I was at Molson Coors when there was an active shooter situation, and one of the people on the team, who was one of the leaders, very dramatically, probably more dramatically than he needed to do, but we were all in crisis and panic mode, really directed everyone to an internal conference room, nothing with windows. And some people started asking questions and trying to get clarification. And this leader was very clear: get into an internal conference room now. No questions, no debate, no going to another floor, no, find the nearest internal conference room and get in there now. In a crisis situation, there isn't time for collaboration. There isn't time for collaborative decision making. And those types of crises, in a fire, in an active shooter, in situations where it is the immediacy of action is critical, yes, make the decision and move on. However, here are some reasons why it might be easier. As a leader, what's easy is to make the decision yourself. It seems faster. It seems less risky because you know better. You might have more experience. And we're going to talk about risk in a minute. And there are several reasons why a leader might want to make decisions themselves. And I don't know that this is the case in the conversation that I had with this person. I think it was a cultural thing. I think it had to do with the type of organization it was. It was a financial institution. And there are certain communications that have to go through level after level after level of approval. And so that in and of itself, because of the compliance, because of the risk aversion, because of that kind of the mitigation, those situations can create less of a culture of input and conversation and healthy debate. However, that's not necessarily the case in all situations. So let's look at why a leader might go ahead and try to make all decisions on their own, or feign input, which we'll talk about a little bit as well. That just kind of came into my mind as a reminder. I hadn't made that in my notes, but where they will feign it being a collaborative decision. And in the end, it isn't. It's still a unilateral decision. And that is not helpful either. And so it's really important to be clear about the type of decision that you're making. And I think I didn't actually research this, and I think I'm remembering it correctly. There's different levels of decisions. Level 1 decision is I'm making the decision, no input, no questions, no anything. I'm making the decision as a leader. The next level is I'm going to ask questions, I'm going to get input, and I'm still going to make the decision. It's my decision. I may consider your input, and it's still my decision. And then the next level is we are going to get we're going to look at all of the situations. We are going to come to a decision together. We are going to consider everybody's input, and we're going to make those decisions together. So the first step is really to be clear about what level of decision making you're at and why, so that you have a team who understands that what is the level of decision making and why. Let's first look at why you might lean more heavily in the direction of making all of the decisions yourself. And there are 5 things. And then I'm going to share 5 reasons why you don't necessarily want to do that in most situations. So the first reason a leader might want to make decisions on their own is a sense of control. They might have a perfectionist mindset that everything needs to happen their way and that they know best and that they have a certain set of personal standards that no one else can meet and that no one else's decision would align to their vision. And that sense of security, they get a sense of security and safety and steadfastness if they make the decision. That's one reason why. So this sense of control is a reason why a leader might make most decisions themselves. Another is speed and efficiency. And, when you're making decisions as a team, it can be perceived as slow and bureaucratic. And when you're making unilateral decisions on tight timelines, then you might need to make decisions. If there are very, very tight timelines, you might use a different approach to gaining input and to making a collaborative decision. And you're prioritizing efficiency over consensus. You're prioritizing speed over quality in the long run, because the speed and efficiency is sometimes negated by some of the things that you're not getting. And we're going to talk about all the things of why you should. And one of those is the risk mitigation. You think you might be mitigating risks by making the decision yourself and doing it solo, when in fact you might be actually missing some of those. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Another one is you might have had some success with being the solo decision maker. So maybe somewhere in the past, these solo decisions were successful. And that is, sometimes here or there, when you stick to and to be perfectly honest, it's a brain thing. Once you've done something once or twice and it's successful, your brain is going to say, do that again, do that again, do that again, do that again. It does not want to get uncomfortable. It does not want to do something it's not done before. So if you're not used to collaborative decision making, if you're not used to fostering healthy debate, it's going to feel like death. Your brain is literally going to say, go back in the cave, make the decision yourself. Do not go and seek any input from anyone, because that's going to be literally, your brain thinks death. You're going to die. Even though you don't consciously think you're going to die, that's what your brain is doing. The other part of that is the fear of the conflict and any kind of confrontation. So that's the fourth thing, the fear of conflict and confrontation. First of all, very few discussions, debates, conversations in business are true conflict. I think we over rely on the word conflict when really it's a discussion. It is hearing everyone's opinion. It is healthy debate. And healthy debate can get spirited. It can get animated. It can get intense. And that doesn't mean it's conflict. When it's personal, then it's conflictive. Okay? When it's a true conflict, there is a lot more at stake than what you tend to be conversing about and making decisions about in day-to-day business. Okay? When you're conflict averse and you make decisions by yourselves, you might avoid a disagreement, you might avoid a tension on the team. That's not leadership. You're going to avoid innovation. You're going to avoid creativity. You're going to avoid the genius on your team is what you're avoiding when you try to avoid conflict, because you're not avoiding conflict. All you're doing is really damping down all of the ideas. And part of being a great leader is knowing the difference, first of all, between conflict and healthy debate, and how to foster healthy debate and have those healthy interactions, those conversations, without it getting personal, without it getting violent, without it getting too over the top. And that's an incredible skill as a leader. It's one of the core things I teach when I coach leaders and when I do any kind of leadership development work. The last thing, and it probably should be the first thing, to be perfectly honest with you, because when you think of Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team, when you have limited trust in your team. Now, trust is an assessment. Trust is your judgment, your assessment of sincerity, ability, competence, and responsibility or reliability. And in this situation in decision making, it could be around any of those. And any of those things could be a risk in your trust of your organization. However, if you don't trust their competence, which is one of the things that can tend to drive you to make sole decisions, is they don't have the ability. They're, as Otto, on A Man Called Otto on the movie, idiots. You hired these people to do great work on your team. And if you're a great leader, you're hiring really smart people, and you're hiring people who may be even smarter than you. Most likely, many leaders will say, my team is so smart. They're smarter than me. And whether that's true or not, we're not talking about intelligence. Everybody brings a level of genius to your team. Everyone brings a certain level of genius. And if you don't trust that they have any of that genius, and if you're not willing to foster that ability to mine that genius, that is a lack of leadership. And that is a reason, lacking trust in their competence, in their ability to actually make decisions, to have the ability to think creatively, to think innovatively, to think, far enough in the future, then you are limiting your ability to actually get the best decision in the long run. So those are reasons: sense of control, speed and efficiency, past success with doing it alone, fear of conflict, and then limited trust in the competence of your team. Those are the 5 reasons why a leader might actually make decisions on their own. Now let's look at what are some of the things, if you go into the realm of collaborative decisions, why encouraging healthy debate? Why encouraging collaboration? In most contexts, remember, there's very few situations where you need to make a unilateral decision. Louise says, it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. I love it, Louise. I love it. Love it. Yes. Oh, that's Steve Jobs. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Louise. Yes, it's absolutely true. Why would you hire smart people and then tell them what to do? Doesn't make any sense. I love it, Louise. Great. I appreciate your input. Appreciate you being here. All right, let's talk about the 5 things, the 5 reasons why you should foster healthy debate and foster decision-making across your team in most situations. First of all, you're going to end up with a better solution. When you limit the range of perspectives and when you limit the number of ideas, if you're only relying on your genius to make the decision, now you are limiting the different perspectives. You're limiting the best possible solution. You may not have the best possible solution. Now, in your brain, you might think my solution is always best. It's not the case. I know I thought that for a long time. I was one of these toxic rock stars. I was one of these does not play well with others. I know where some of these leaders are coming from. I've been there. I've changed for the most part. Most of the time, I tend to sometimes slip back, but I've been there. When you foster healthy debate on your team and when you encourage everybody to provide input, you're tapping their genius. You're tapping into the wealth of the collective intelligence of your team. Just like Louise said, you hire smart people. Don't tell them what to do. Get their ideas. Ensure that everybody's ideas are heard and that you can take pieces of all of those to make the best possible solution. The next thing, number 2, why you should foster healthy debate and collaborative decision-making is that you increase employee engagement and you increase ownership. And you can also increase accountability. So when team members feel that their ideas are actually valued and that they are being considered and that they are part of the decision-making process, they will take more ownership. You have a level of commitment to that decision that you would not have otherwise. And when you have that level of commitment, then you can actually have accountability, because you have to have trust, then you have to have healthy debate, then you get commitment. Those 3 have to be in place before you can do accountability. So they will take more ownership of that decision and actually work harder to execute that decision because they have a stake in that decision. The third reason why you want to foster healthy debate and foster conversations, not conflict. You want to foster conversations that include everybody's different perspectives, is you're going to identify and mitigate risks better. You might think that if I make the decision, it's less risky because I know. Again, you're relying on your own standards, your own vision, and you're not really leveraging that genius from the team, okay? Now, when you are getting all of those diverse perspectives, you are potentially, and in fact, I have a worksheet. If people are interested, you can make a comment in the comments, whether you're listening to it live or on replay. And I'll send you a link to sign up for this. How to, I can't even remember. I didn't put it in my notes now what it's called. Weed out cordial hypocrisy. And cordial hypocrisy is what you get when you're making all the decisions. People end up just, the corporate nod. Yep. Okay. Whatever. And then outside the room, they're like, forget that. All right, let's keep going. And I'm going to go through the rest of these. The 4th reason why you should foster healthy debate and why you should ensure that you're using a collaborative decision making is that you are then developing your next generation of leaders. If you're making all the decisions, if you're not allowing people to take a risk, if you're not allowing people to go out on a limb and say, you know what, I really think we should do this, and let them execute on that decision and celebrate their success or really encourage failure if that's what it takes, and encouraging people to learn from that failure, that's leadership. That's what leadership is all about, is helping develop that next generation of leaders, helping to develop those leaders, helping them learn how to get all of the input, make a mistake, learn from that mistake, and move forward, continue to move forward. So it's not always going to happen that it's going to be a mistake, and mistakes happen. You cannot avoid every mistake. Mistakes are opportunities for learning. And in fact, I think I just put that in my last email. If you're not on my email list, comment below email list, and I will add you to my email list. But you are weakening your team if you are not fostering healthy debate and collaborative decision making. You are weakening your team. You are weakening the organization. You will develop the next generation of leaders. You will develop your people. We are organic beings. We are either decaying and going backwards, or we are growing and going forward. There is no standing still. There is no standing still. Your job as a leader is to help the growth and development of your team. And part of that is through conversation, healthy debate, encouraging people to hear and listen to and determine what are all the greatest parts of each idea and what can we move forward with that's going to help the organization move forward. And then what that ends up with in the end, number 5, is you're fostering a culture of inclusion. And so when you're doing top-down decision-making and that hierarchical, that rigid organizational structure is not encouraging healthy debate, it's not encouraging growth, it is not encouraging, and when you're not encouraging the growth of the individual, you are actually discouraging the growth of the organization. Your organization cannot grow and move forward if you're not growing and moving forward with all of your team. So when everybody feels that they are included, that their opinions are valued, you have an inclusive culture, you have an engaged culture, you have increased creativity, you have increased employee satisfaction, you have increased retention, decreased costs, increased profits, and then employee satisfaction, organizational well-being, all of that comes with that. And in the end, as a CEO or a senior leader, what you should care about all parts of your organization, and the organization is in business to grow the business, and the business is the people. So you're growing the people to grow the output of the organization as well, which is what you're serving into the world, and then what you get back from that service to the world, the profits in the end. So while it might be easier to make decisions by yourself, or that you think it's easier, for the long-term success of your organization, please foster healthy debate and collaborative decision-making, because you're going to enhance the quality of your decisions. You're going to, and once you build that muscle, just like when you're first working out, I know I'm going longer than I had originally planned. When you're first working out, the muscles get sore and you can't do as many reps and you can't do them as fast. The weights might be heavy and they feel really like, and so you're going a little slower. That's what it's going to be like when you first start fostering healthy debate and collaborative decision-making. It might be a little slower. And once that team gets used to a culture of healthy debate and sparring and building on each other's ideas and saying, hey, wait a minute, why? I don't get how that's going to work. And knowing that that's not a personal attack, it's truly, I'm questioning the idea. I'm questioning, I don't get what you're saying. Help me understand more. You're going to have such growth. And the speed of decision making is actually going to increase because your team is used to how that sparring, that healthy debate, that challenge, being able to challenge each other is really a healthy thing. And it ends up being something that creates better decisions, more creativity, more innovation, less risk, and more profits in the end. So you are going to build, in the end, a more resilient, a more empowered team who can navigate change, who can navigate the landscape of this ever challenging environment we're in, and your company will grow. Thanks for attending. And if you are watching this in the replay, whether on YouTube or LinkedIn, just put replay in the comments. And if you have a topic you'd love for me to cover in the future, please drop that in the comments as well. And I will see you next Wednesday. Have a great rest of your week.